Hello everyone, and I hope I'm audible and visible. Just let do let me know in the comment section so that I can confirm. Okay. Do let me know, guys. Then only we can start. If I'm audible and visible. Okay. Okay. Great. So yeah, let's wait for a few minutes so that other people can also join, and then we can start. Hello, Sajia. Hello, Raghavan. Hello, Gaurav. Dushyant. DD. Okay. So first of all, today's session is going to be probably a very interesting session because we are going to be working with a project and we are going to try to integrate every single tool that we have worked in DevOps. So the basically you can see this session as a DevOps crash course also, because we are going to learn everything and we are going to see how everything gets integrated within DevOps. Okay. Hello, Murugan, Sai, Kuldip, Kamran. Okay, let's wait for 2-3 more minutes and then we'll start. Okay, so whole night I have set up the project. Basically, the project is created by my teammate whose YouTube channel is Code with Golden Cat. Highly recommend to subscribe that channel because the one project that you are seeing everywhere at this point, Golden Cat Bank application. So that project is also created by him. And the new application that I'll be showing you, it's a chat application which is completely dynamic. So that is also created by him. I have just modified it a little bit so that it can work. I can show you with a demo using like DevOps. Okay. Okay. Let's wait for 1 more minute and then we'll start. Both side I have kept my phone so that I can see the comments, because on the same screen if I'm teaching I won't be able to see. So I've just uh, yes, Manju. So basically, if see people who are fresher, you can easily showcase this project in your resume. The reason why I say so, because as a fresher your focus should be on what exactly are your skill sets. So best way to showcase is like using a single project and integrating everything that you know. So yeah, this project you can also showcase in your resume. Okay. Hello, Pushpak. Hello, Rohan. Okay. Okay, guys. So let me share my screen and then we can start. Okay. I hope we have enough people on both the platforms, YouTube and LinkedIn. So yes, now we can start. Okay, let me share my screen. Do let me know if my screen is visible and I can continue then. Screen visible? Okay. So this is the project that we are going to implement today, and the best part about this project is that it's basically in this project we are going to integrate every single thing that we have. Okay. So first let me explain you the tools that we are going to use today, the core tools. Okay. So there will be two 𝗖𝗍 tools that we are going to use. One is going to be Terraform. Second is going to be CloudFormation. For CI/CD, we are going to use Jenkins. Give me 1 second. Sorry. Okay. So we are going to use first of all two 𝗖𝗍𝒄 tools in which we are going to work with Terraform, and we are also going to use CloudFormation. Okay. So as you know, CloudFormation is specific to AWS. So I have planned to use this also so that I can showcase usage of it. Okay. For CI/CD, we are going to use Jenkins. For artifact repo, we are going to use Nexus, and we will be using Docker as well for building our Docker images. From security point of view, we are going to use SonarQube first of all. Then we are going to use 𝗕𝗁𝗏. Okay, these will be the tools that we are going to use from security point of view. Then for monitoring, we are going to use Prometheus, Grafana, Node Exporter, and Cube State Metrics. Okay, these things I am going to explain side by side whenever I start the implementation part. Okay. And then we have we'll be integrating the mail configuration also. For that we are using Gmail only at this point, but I have shown for Outlook also. Okay, these will be the primary tools that we are going to cover today, and we are going to integrate everything together to see how exactly everything works. Okay, so now let me show you the phases, because we are going to divide everything in 4 phases. Okay, so in that first phase is going to be infra setup. Okay, inside infra setup, we have to first of all set up an EKS cluster, which we are going to use for deployment purpose. Then we are going to set up the tools and servers. For that, we are going to set up Jenkins, SonarQube, and Nexus. And then we are going to set up monitoring tools. Okay. In monitoring tools, we are going to set up a Prometheus, Grafana, and the node metrics and other exporters. Okay. Now, so also side by side, let me explain you through a diagram so that it's clear a little bit. Okay. So in infra setup, these are the core things that we have to set up. First, we are going to set up Jenkins. And since we need to perform deployment from Jenkins, so we need to make sure that we are installing kubectl on Jenkins. Okay. Then we are installing 𝗕𝗁𝗏. Why we are installing 𝗕𝗁𝗏 on Jenkins? Because by default for Jenkins there is no plugin available for 𝗕𝗁𝗏. Then we have to set up Docker also on Jenkins, because we want to build Docker images using Jenkins. Then Java also needs to be installed on the machine where Jenkins is going to be set up. Why? Because Java is the prerequisite for Jenkins to be set up. Talking about second server, second we are going to set up Nexus, which is a server where you can publish your artifact. What are the artifacts? For example, when you build your application, you get a packaged product. For example, when you build Java application, you get a jar file or war file, which you can store on Nexus server. Why we need to store on Nexus server? Because whenever we make changes in our source code, the artifact that is going to get produced, it's going to be of different version. Okay, so in this way, having different multiple versions of artifact, we can maintain it using Nexus server. Then we have SonarQube also we are going to set up. So why we need to set up SonarQube? Because we want to perform security checks on the static code, the code that we have kept in our GitHub. That code we want to scan and find out what kind of bugs, issues, vulnerabilities, code smell, duplication are present in our source code. Okay, that can be done using SonarQube. Then one separate virtual machine I'll be creating, which I'm going to call as infra server, and this is the machine from where we are going to set up the EKS cluster by running different commands. Okay, also on this infra server we are going to install Terraform, Helm, AWS CLI, and 𝗖𝗍 These are the primary tools that we have to install. As you can see, I am also going to use Helm so that I can show you how we are using Helm. Okay, now talking about EKS cluster, what things we need to set up inside EKS cluster. Now, most of you might already know about RBAC, rule-based access control. So we are going to utilize that rule-based access control so that we can set up a separate account, which is going to be named as Jenkins service account. And I want that we are going to perform the deployment using this service account. Why we need to have this? So let me explain you that as well. Basically, when we set up EKS, by default, we have like root user available for performing deployment, right? But the problem is that this root user is going to have complete permissions over the cluster. Okay, and if we are going to perform deployment from our like Jenkins, then obviously Jenkins, we don't want that Jenkins should be using root user for deployment, because root user has all the permission and it's going to be a security breach. So for that purpose, what we do, we create a separate account, or you can say user also, which is known as service account. Now we can decide what kind of permission it should be, this account should be having. For example, I want that this service account that we created should be having permission to perform deployment of create pods, services, then persistent volume. Also we want our application to be able to store the data and not lose data even if any restart happens. Then we have other components like replica set, deployments, config map, secrets, and so many other things. Okay, so I want that this service account should be having those permissions only. Okay, so this is going to make sure that the account that we use for deployment has limited permissions and not all permission. That means whatever is required, that much only permission is there. Okay, so this will make sure that we are not using root account. Okay, now talking about how do we set up the permission. So basically inside Kubernetes cluster, the way that it's going to work, you have to first create a service account. Let's say I'm going to create a service account named Jenkins. Okay, now whenever I create a service account inside Kubernetes cluster, it is just going to have read only permission. That means it cannot do anything, but I want to give permission. So how I can give? So there are two kind of ways. First is known as roles, second is known as cluster roles. Now what is the difference? So basically role is a role and cluster role are kind of resources in which you define different permission. For example, inside roles I'll define permission, that permission will be there to like deploy pod or updated services, then like PVC, then we can also set up like replica set, these kind of things. Now these resources are scoped over namespace. That means you can perform deployment inside namespace only. Then we have cluster roles. Now cluster roles have certain different kind of resources. For example, storage class. What is storage class? So it's a resource that is going to create volumes for you. For example, if I want that my application should be having persistent data, right? So we need to attach a separate volume to my application. So that volume we can use storage class to create. Now storage class is a kind of cluster level resource. That means it is not specific to a namespace. Okay, similar to that we have persistent volume also, that is also cluster level namespace. So the resource that we are going to create inside cluster role will be these things. Okay, and inside roles we are going to create a mention permission for these things. In this way, once we have created this role, let's call it as role 1, inside which we have defined permission for deploying, modifying these resources, and inside cluster role 1 we have defined permissions for these resources. Then next I want that my Jenkins service account should be having permission to deploy this, right? So what we have to do, we have to assign these roles to our service account. So for the process of assigning these roles can be done by creating another resource which is known as role binding. Here we need to create role binding resource. Once we create it, then these permissions will be given to Jenkins. Similarly, for cluster roles we have to create cluster role binding. Okay, and once we do this, then afterward Jenkins user will be having permission to perform the deployment of all these resources. Okay, so this is how we are going to set up service account. Now the thing is, we have to set up two service account. You can see first service account is going to be Jenkins service account. Second service account is going to be 𝗵𝗫𝗃 controller. Why we need to have this? So basically, as I told, that we want our application to be having persistent storage. That means data should not be lost. So that data, that volume is supposed to be created or managed by this service account. Okay, so for that purpose we are going to set up this. Next, inside Kubernetes I'm going to set up node exporter, Prometheus, and Grafana. And now this is where I'm going to utilize Helm. Okay, since I have to show you that we are going to use Helm also for this demo, so we are going to use Helm to deploy these things inside Kubernetes cluster. So this will be our infra setup. Okay, second thing that we are phase 2 is going to be CI pipeline. We have to create a pipeline which is going to build and make our application deployment ready. That means only step that is pending is to deploy the application. So inside that, first of all, I want it to be automatic. So I'm going to set up a webhook. Secondly, I'm going to keep the code inside GitHub, use Jenkins, and inside Jenkins, I'm going to create the pipeline. Inside pipeline, we are going to have stages: compile to check if there is any kind of syntax error in our code; test cases, we are going to execute unit test cases for our application. Then we are going to scan the file system, the source code, the file system inside which source code is present. We are going to scan that using 𝗕𝗁. Then we are going to perform SonarQube analysis on our static source code, perform quality gate check for uh, confirming that our application code is compliant. Okay. Then we are going to build the application, and then we are going to publish the application artifact, that is jar file, to Nexus. Then we are going to build the Docker image using that artifact, and then we are going to scan that Docker image so that we can make sure that there is no issue in our Docker image as well. Then we are going to push the Docker image to Docker Hub registry or any kind of registry you can use. Then we are going to update. So there will be two repositories basically. First repository will be CI repository, where we will be having the actual source code. Okay. Second repository is going to be the repository inside which we have the manifest files. Okay. So this is my second repository, which is CD repository, inside which we have manifest files. If I show you this, we have these many files. Okay, ingress, HP, and all those things. HP also I'm going to set up. So inside this, if you see here, if I show you, where is this one? This is the Docker image, right? But the thing is, since we are building Docker images, it's going to be different, right? Because what we are going to do, we are going to, once we build the Docker image, there will be different versions of Docker image. So I want that as soon as my Docker image is built and it is pushed to repository, that information, that tag should be updated in CD repository also. So for that, we are going to use same pipeline, and we are going to update our CD repository. Once it is updated, then we are going to receive a notification email over Gmail that this now changes have been done inside CD pipeline. Okay, CD repository. Once these changes are pushed to CD repository, there will be a webhook configured which is going to start the CD pipeline. Inside CD pipeline, we have mainly main stages we are going to have, which is perform deployment. When deployment starts using Jenkins, what are the things that is going to get deployed? First, the application deployment, then database deployment, then replica set, both the replica set, then the pods will be getting created. Okay. Once that is created, then we are also going to set up secrets config map. Inside config map, we are going to store information about database name or URL you can store. In secrets, we are going to store information about uh, database password. Okay. Then we have horizontal pod auto scaling, so that if like anything goes wrong, then like if there is overloaded, the pod is overloaded, then we can increase the number of pods. Okay. Then when we talk about persistent storage, so I want that my application should not be losing any kind of data even if there is a restart or crash in the pod. For that, I'm going to set up a volume. This will be the dynamic volume which we are going to set up using EBS, okay, inside AWS. And for setting up the volume, dynamic volume, we need to make sure that we have created storage class. Okay. And how this database pod is going to get access to the volume using PVC. Once these things are created, then we are going to set up ingress. Okay. Once we create ingress, then there will be a load balancer, and side by side we are also going to create a certificate for our application, SSL certificate, so that when we deploy the application, when we want to access the application, it should be on a secure URL, that means HTTPS. Final thing that we are going to do is map the ingress load balancer URL inside this one GoDaddy domain, custom domain. Okay. And finally, we are going to set up Prometheus Grafana for monitoring these resources, monitoring the pods. Okay. So now, without any more delay, let's start, because this is going to take a lot of time. Okay. So first thing that I'm going to do, let me refresh the page and let me create one single virtual machine, which will be our primary server from where we are going to execute command to create EKS cluster. Okay. So let's call this machine as server, and it will be of Ubuntu type, and version I'm taking 24.04. Instance type is T2 medium, which is more than enough for our requirement. Keep here, we can select the one that we have, security group. This is the one that I'm selecting, and let me show you also what ports I have opened, so that later on if you are working you can also understand. So these are the primary ports that I keep open for our work. Make sure keep open 587 because that will be needed for mail notifications. Okay. Now I can go ahead and storage I'm giving 25 and launch. Okay. So we have launched, and now I can connect to it using 𝗦𝗵𝗃𝗏. For that I can go to here, and I have 𝗦𝗵𝗃𝗏 somewhere. Give me 1 second. This one. So now I can connect to the newly created virtual machine, and let's click on session. SSH, provide the public IP address, then username. For our machine we have Ubuntu, then we have advanced SSH. So here we are going to connect to our machine using SSH method. For that we'll be needing a private key, and that is present on my machine here. So I can select it, and let's name this also, and I'm going to name this as infra-server. Then click on OK. Now we are connected to this machine. Now whenever you create a machine, the first thing that you are supposed to do is run the command sudo apt update, so that the default packages that are available in Linux repository inside this virtual machine, they get updated and they become available for usage. Okay. Now next thing what we have to do, first thing from here, see I have created this machine so that we can create EKS cluster from there. So first thing that we need to make sure that we are able to connect from this machine to our AWS account. How do we do that? So for that we need to make sure that we have AWS CLI, which is a kind of CLI which is going to help us communicate with our AWS account. So we need to install this. So I'll copy this and run here. Okay. And as you know, if I want to communicate or if I want to establish communication from this virtual machine to AWS account, I'll be needing some kind of credentials, right? So from where we are going to get credentials? For that we are going to see, one method is that you can create a separate user, assign it different permissions, and then you'll be able to connect. For now, for demo purpose, I'm going to create my root credentials. For that you can go on here, click on security credentials, and we can generate a credential for us here. Let's wait. So you can go to access keys. If you have any old access keys, you can remove it, or you can create another one. For now I'll just remove the old one, and I'm going to create a new access key, and I can put it here. Okay. So now I can click on create access key, click on this and generate. Now it's going to generate a access key and secret access key which we are going to use. So how do we use it inside our virtual machine? So AWS CLI is installed. Now we have to run the command AWS configure, which is going to give us a pop-up where we can provide the credentials. So I can provide credentials. This is access key. Then we have to provide the secret access key also. So I can copy that as well, put it here. Then we have to provide region name. So my region name is AP-South-1, which is Mumbai. Click enter, and output format you can leave it default for now. Now basically what we have done, we have connected from this virtual machine to our AWS account, and now we can, and since we have root credentials, so that we can easily go ahead and create the EKS cluster. Okay. For that, what we'll be doing, I have this repository. If I show you, and there is a speciality in that repository. There is old Terraform also code on my account, but there is new Terraform code that I created recently. So now the best part about this, since I have focused mainly on persistent of the data. For that, I have added here. If I show you, this policies also EBS driver policy, so that there is no data loss. Okay. And we'll be able to manage the data. So I can copy this. I can go here. I can clone the repository. Click on here. Now we have to provide the username. Okay. And now we have to provide credentials. So token I have. Let me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Let me put the credentials. And I can put here. Okay. Coming back. So what I have done, I have added the credentials, and now a repository is there. So I can go inside this. Okay. And here we can see these are the files present. Now we have to install Terraform tool. So if we have the commands to install Terraform tool, I can copy these commands and directly install Terraform on our machine. You can install using Snap package also, but the problem with Snap package is that it's going to be very, very slow. For that purpose, I'm using different command to set up Terraform. Now, once we have set up Terraform, next command that we can run is Terraform init, which is going to initialize and download all the required things. And let's wait for this to complete. Once this is done, since this is done now I can run the command terraform apply hyphen auto dash approve, which is going to create the EKS cluster with 3 worker nodes. Okay, and let's wait for this. Okay, we have some issue. Second, let me see if we have some issue here. It seems credentials is wrong. Let me try to do this again. Sorry. So I'll use. Let me generate a new one. Okay, so let me stop screen sharing. Let me put the credentials again, and then we will continue. 1 second. First, I can put the access key. Then I can put the secret access key. And then I can put the region, which is AP-South-1. Okay, and okay. So if you can see my screen now, the cluster creation has started. Previously, I think by mistake, we have written something wrong in the credentials, but now I've added the correct one. And now cluster creation has started, and this is going to take few minutes. Okay. So meanwhile, this is happening. What we can do, we can set up our other tools. Okay. What other tools we need to set up? We need to set up Jenkins, SonarQube, and Nexus. So I'm going to click on launch instance. I'm going to create 3 machines, which will be Ubuntu kind. And instance size, I'm taking T2 medium for all of them. Keep here we can select, and security group, the one that I have shown you, and storage to each one of them I'm giving 25. And here we can name them. So first will be Jenkins, then we have SonarQube, and then we have Nexus. Okay, so first let us connect to Jenkins. I'll copy the public IP address, go to MobaXterm, and let us create a duplicate of it, and let us rename this. Sorry about this. Here I'm going to put the IP address this, and we are going to change the name to Jenkins. Okay. Then okay, sorry. Second, I think some issue is there. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me create these machines again. I think he's not assigned or something. Exactly, sure, not sure, but yeah, let me create it again. Okay, so let me create one by one. Yeah, let's go. Let's create. First, let us create Jenkins. One2 machine will be there. Size will be T2 medium. Key will select DevOps Shack, the one that we have on our local. 𝗵𝗵𝗄𝗃 and storage is 25. This is done. Okay. 1 second. Let me try this again. This will be Jenkins. Let's try to connect this again. Okay. So now it's working. So let us set up things one by one because okay, no problem. So first thing that we are going to run sudo apt update, and let's wait for this. Meanwhile, this is getting done. Let me create the second instance also, or other 2 instances for 𝗠𝗂𝗏 and all. I can launch instance. Let's 2 machines. These T2 micro, sorry, T2 medium we will go with. This security group and storage 25. Okay. So this will be Sonar and this will be Nexus. Okay. So let us connect to Sonar first. I can create a duplicate of Jenkins, rename this to Sonar and update the IP address. Okay. And we should be able to connect to 𝗠𝗏𝗏 also. And let me side by side, let me create another duplicate session, which is going to be for Nexus. And we have to update the public IP address, which we can get from here. This one. Okay. Now let us set up one by one thing. So first thing, we are going to set up Jenkins. Now Jenkins by default, a prerequisite is that there should be one Java present. So I can search Java, and as you can see, Java is not present, but I can run this command to install JDK 17, which is at this point quite widely used. And once Java is installed, then we can run the command to install Jenkins. So for that, I can go here, I can search install Jenkins, and I can click on Linux, click on Ubuntu machine, and get the LTS version, so that it's basically a stable version, and I can run this on Jenkins server. Okay. Now coming to 𝗠𝗏𝗏. So 𝗠𝗏𝗏 we are going to set up using Docker. Okay, before that, first sudo apt update. Same thing we have to do on Nexus also. Sudo apt update. Okay. And it's going to take a little bit of time. So after this sudo apt update is done, what we are going to do, we are going to install Docker, and then we are going to create the container. So on Sonar, first of all, I'll check if Docker is there or not. As we can see, Docker is not present. So I'm going to copy this command docker.io, which is going to install Docker. And same thing we have to do over Nexus. Here also we can see that Docker is not present, but I can copy this command to install Docker. I will put -y so that no prompt comes. And by default, when you set up Docker, by default only root user has permission to run Docker commands. So in order to make sure that Ubuntu user also has permission to execute Docker commands, we have to add Ubuntu user to Docker group, because when you install Docker, by default a group will be created named Docker, and whichever user is present inside that group, that user will be having permission to execute Docker commands. So we are going to add Ubuntu user inside Docker group. So I'll going to run the command sudo user mod -a capital G, then group to which we want to add, and what we want to add, I want to add Ubuntu user. So basically this command says ki I want to add Ubuntu user to Docker group so that Ubuntu user can run Docker commands as well. I'll click enter. Now for these changes to be reflecting, either you can log out and log in, or you can run this command new group Docker. And now Ubuntu user has the permission to run Docker command. So now we can run here Docker run -d for detached mode, because we want that whatever logs is there, it should be running in background and not on the foreground. Then -p, which is for basically we are giving port information, port mapping we have to give. First is going to be the host port, which is the port that is going to be opened on this virtual machine. Second port is going to be the port that is going to be open on the container. Okay. Then we have to write the Docker image name of SonarQube, and I'm going to use SonarQube LTS community version, that is free version, you can say. Now it's going to download the Docker image and it's going to create the container. Same thing we have to do with Nexus. Here also, if we see Docker, it is installed, but we have to first add Ubuntu user to Docker group. So I can run sudo user mod -a capital G, then Docker, then Ubuntu. You know, if you're running this kind of command over some kind of script, then you should not be writing Ubuntu. Instead, you can write $user. That means the current user. Okay. In our case, Ubuntu. Now, new group Docker. This is done. And here also we can run the Docker command to create a container for Nexus. So I'll run Docker run -d -p. By default, Nexus runs on port 8081. So we are going to map that. And then we have to write the Docker image name for Nexus. For that, we can write sonatype /Nexus3. This is the Docker image name. Click enter, and now it's going to download the Docker image and create the container. And as you can see, for SonarQube, it is done. If I want to check SonarQube, you can see container is created. So let us access it. Side by side, I think Jenkins is also set up, so we can connect to that as well. First Jenkins, I'll get the public IP address. And by default, Jenkins runs on browser on port 8080. So I'll go to port 8080. And as we can see, Jenkins is started, but we have to configure it. So you can see we have to provide initial admin password, which is present on this location var lab directory. Okay. Now var directory is basically admin level directory which requires elevated permissions. So for that, I'm going to use sudo cat command to view the contents of the file and the file name. And this is the initial admin password. So I can copy this. I can put it here and click on continue. Now here we have two options. So we are going to go with first one because Jenkins knows which plugins are mandatory for it. Okay, so click on this. Now it's going to install all the default or required plugins. Next thing that we are going to do is connect to our SonarQube. Okay, I'll get it, the public IP address, go on browser, and by default SonarQube runs on port 9000. And yeah, you can see initial add username admin pass we have. So I'm going to put admin because by default username and password for SonarQube is admin default one. We have to log in, then we have to change the password. So I'm going to first set up provide old password and then set up new password. Click on update. SonarQube setup. Next thing that we have to connect to is Nexus. I can copy this, and by default Nexus runs on port 8081. So I can write 8081. You can see Nexus is also up. When we click on this sign in, we have the initial user, which is admin. So I can write that. Now, initial admin password is located inside certain folder, right? And since we have set up Nexus through Docker container, that means we have to go inside the container. How we can do that? If I go to Nexus server, you can see if I run Docker ps, we can see the container, right? Now we have to go inside this container. For that, we can run the command docker exec -it container name or container ID. I'm going with container ID. This is the ID. Then which kind of terminal I want to open? So I want to open bash terminal. All right, bin bash. Click enter, and now you can see we are having different kind of terminals. So if I run ls, these are the folders. So here I'm going to go inside Sona type work. Here we have Nexus folder. We will go inside it, and here you can see admin.password. That is the file that contains the initial admin password. So we have to get it. So I can run cat admin password, and we have to copy this. So from here to here we are going to copy. Do not copy bash. Put it here and sign in. Now we have now we have to set up new password for Nexus as well. So I'm going to set up a new password. Now here configure anonymous access. So basically if you want that the artifact should be able to be downloaded without any kind of credentials, you can enable, and if you don't want, then disable. So by default it should be disabled only for security reasons, obviously. Now all the tools we have set up. Now Jenkins we have to final setup. Username this, and password I can set up something. Full name we can put anything, and email address you can put anything. Click on save and continue. Now all tools are set up. Monitoring tools I have not set up now because I'll be doing that later. Now we can start writing our pipeline. Okay. So first thing that we have to do inside Jenkins. Okay, before Jenkins, one more thing that we can check if yeah, you can see it is taking a little bit of time. The EKS cluster, it's still in progress only, and it's going to take a little bit more time. Okay. Coming to Jenkins back. So in order to get started with Jenkins, we need to install certain plugins inside Jenkins. For that, you can go to Manage Jenkins, Plugins, Available Plugins, and here let us install one by one. First, make sure that you are installing Stage View. Secondly, we are going to install SonarQube Scanner. We are going to install Config File Provider. So basically, when we want to publish our artifact to Nexus, we have to provide credentials for Nexus, right? So those things can be provided in a separate kind of file, which is known as settings.xml. Those file you'll be able to access or create using this plugin, Config File Provider. For that, I'm creating. Then we have to install Maven also. Maven integration also needs to be done. And here, if I search Maven, there should be one more plugin, Pipeline Maven integration. Okay. After that, what we have to install, these done, and then I'm going to install Docker. So for Docker, I'm going to go here, Docker pipeline. Make sure that you install this as well. Then we have to install Kubernetes plugin because we need we'll be needing it for authentication. So first this one, and yeah, these four I'll be installing. Okay. Click on install, and this will take a little bit of time. Okay. Now, few things meanwhile this is happening, few other things that we have to do is that we have to install 𝗵𝗏 on Jenkins because by default there is no plugin. So for that, I can go on browser, I can search here, install 𝗵𝗏 on Ubuntu, and you can see first link that comes, we can open that, and you can see this is Ubuntu, right? So we can copy it and we can directly install here. Now, there is one small difference whenever you install a plugin inside Jenkins or when you install a tool like 𝗵𝗏 directly on server. So main difference that we should be knowing is that whenever you install any specific tool through plugins, and you want to use those tools inside your pipeline, then you have to define those tools inside your pipeline. Then only you'll be able to use. But if I install any tool directly on the VM where Jenkins is running, then I don't have to define it. I can directly use it. For example, I have installed directly 𝗵𝗏 on Jenkins, right? So if I want to execute inside pipeline 𝗵𝗏 command, I can simply run the command 𝗵𝗏 or whatever. But for example, let's say I set up Maven plugin, Maven tool inside through plugins. Okay. So if I want to use Maven in my pipeline, I need to define Maven first. For example, I need to define in this format tools, here Maven, then only I'll be able to run Maven package. Okay. If I don't define the tool, then I won't be able to run. So here the error that we are going to get is Maven not found. Okay. So remember that whenever you install or configure a tool through plugins, then you have to define it in your pipeline for usage. And if you install the tool directly on machine, then you don't have to define it anywhere. Okay. Now coming back here. So I think 𝗕𝗃 is installed. One more thing that we have to install is Docker on our Jenkins machine. Now, if I wanted, I can directly go here and I can install Docker using this one. But the problem, this is very old version. Okay. So for that purpose, we are going to install latest version of Docker. I can search here, install Docker on Ubuntu, click on the first link, and we get the steps here. So I can copy this, which is the steps for adding the repository. I can run it here. And now I can run the command to install Docker on our machine. Okay. Now one more thing, as I told you before also, that by default only root user will be having permission to execute Docker commands. But here the scenario is that I want to execute Docker commands using Jenkins. That means the user that is going to be needing permission to execute Docker commands is Jenkins user, right? So we have to run this command sudo user mod -a capital G Docker, the group, and the user. So I want to give permission to Jenkins user. So I'll write Jenkins. Now, for these changes to be applied immediately, what we have to do, we have to go to Jenkins, and on URL, you can simply write restart after 8080. And it's going to get restarted. The machine is going to restart. Okay. And then Jenkins will be having permission to execute Docker commands. Okay. So let's wait for this. Side by side, we can check here. You can see EKS cluster is still in progress. And the main reason that it's taking time is you can see this EBS CSI driver. CSI driver is a kind of driver that will be needed for again that EBS volumes creation. Okay, so I can log in now to my Jenkins. Okay, and now we can start writing pipeline. But before that, whatever plugins we have downloaded, we need to configure them. So for that, I can go to manage plugins. Then I can go to tools. Whatever tool you install inside plugins, those tools configuration will be done in tools section. So let's go at the end first. First we have Maven. So I'm going to provide a name as Maven 3 or anything you want. You can just provide. Select a version. I'm just going with latest one, whatever is that. Then SonarQube scanner. Here I can provide a name as sonar-scanner. Version again you can check. You can select whatever you want. Rest is fine, and I can click on apply. Okay, one more thing that I'll show you. If you remember, I installed a plugin named config file provider, and this section that you see, managed files, this option is available, or this section is available because of that plugin only. Okay, now we can start writing our pipeline. So here first is going to be the CI pipeline. Click on OK, and job type is pipeline. And as part of best practice, I'm going to create 2 builds in the history. Okay, I can scroll down, and now since if you are new on the stage of writing pipelines, best way is to use template. Create hello world. Okay, now we have taken hello world template, and using this template only we are going to write the complete pipeline. Okay, so what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to copy the one stage. You can see inside stages we have as of now only one stage. Make sure to note down the brackets. Here 2 brackets open, 2 bracket close. So I'll copy that. And I'm going to create multiple stages, which we are going to modify later on. Okay. And one by one, we are going to modify things. First is going to be git checkout. First, we want that the repository with which we want to work. I want to create a local copy of that repository inside Jenkins so that Jenkins can work with that source code. Okay. That is going to be git checkout. Now, how do we write here? So let's say that I don't know. I'm new to this and I don't know. So for that purpose, we have this option pipeline syntax, which is going to help you write the code. So I'll click on that. And here you can see multiple options will be there, right? So expand this and search for something like git. You can see this, open that. Then we have to give repository URL. Okay. So repository URL we'll be able to give. First of all, we need to find the repository which we want to work with. So I have to work with chat app CI repository. So I'll open that. copy the URL and put it in here. Okay. Then branch. So I'm working with main branch. As you can see, since it is a private repository, that's why it's giving error 128 because we have not provided any kind of credentials. So we have to add credentials. For that, I'll open this. You can see as of now, no credential is there. So we can click on add and we are going to provide some credentials. Okay, it's okay. Leave it. We will go back here, save this page, go to dashboard, manage Jenkins, and then we will go to credentials, and then we are going to add the credentials. Now I want that my credentials should be having a scope of global, that means throughout the Jenkins. So for that I will click on global, click on add credentials, and make sure since we have inside GitHub we have a username and token. So username and password is fine. Username is going to be the one that I have, 𝗕𝗁𝗂𝗃𝗍𝗏𝗂𝗃. Then we have to use password. So as of now in Jenkins we don't use password, we use tokens, right? Where do we generate it? If I show you, you can go here, go to settings, go to developer settings, personal access token, tokens classic, and here you can generate a token. Okay, I have a token, so I'm going to use that. Okay, so again let me add this, give me 1 second, and let me add the token. Trust me guys, this is going to be very useful session, but it's going to be a little bit long because again we are covering everything from scratch. Okay, so now I can add the token here. We can provide a name like git-grid. Okay, and click on create. This is done, and now here we need to select it. So I'll refresh the page one time so that credentials are reflecting. I can get git repos URL, branch name is main, and credentials we can select the one. As soon as I select, the error is gone and we can generate the script. Now copy that script and just put it inside your pipeline first stage, which is configure, and we have this one. So first stage is done. Next stage, what I want to do, I want to perform compilation of the source code. What is compilation? Basically compilation is going to find out if there is any kind of syntax based error in your code or not. Okay, so since we have Java project, so I'm going to use 𝗵𝗏 compile command, which is going to compile, but we need to tell Jenkins that this is a shell command and this 𝗵𝗏 compile needs to be executed as a shell command. So what we have to do, we have to enclose this inside shell block. So I'll write double quotes here, and here we will write sh. This tells Jenkins that okay, this command needs to be executed as a shell command. Okay, now as I told you, 𝗵𝗏 tool we are using here, but 𝗵𝗏 tool we installed inside tool section, right? That means it is a tool that is not directly installed on the Jenkins machine. That means it needs to be defined. How do we define it? So I can go here, I can create a tools block. Inside this tools block you create, and inside this the format is first tool type. Now 𝗵𝗏 is a type of 𝗵𝗏 only, and the name that we have configured inside tool section, if I show you, manage Jenkins tools, if I show you, we have configured 𝗵𝗏 with the name 𝗵𝗏3. So second thing that we have to write is tool name, which is 𝗵𝗏3. That means the format is a tool type and encodes tool name. In tools block only you can add 𝗵𝗏 or Java, only two things. Okay, now we have defined 𝗵𝗏 in our pipeline. That means now we will be able to use 𝗵𝗏. So compile is fine. Next that we want to do is unit test cases execution. So I'll write test, and here I can write the steps as such mvn test. This is fine. Next I want to perform a file system scanning of my source code using 𝗕𝗁𝗏. Okay, so I'll write 𝗕𝗁𝗏 fs scan. Now as I told you, 𝗕𝗁𝗏 we have installed directly on the machine. That means we don't need to define 𝗕𝗁𝗏, right? So I can write as such 𝗕𝗁𝗏 fs because we want to scan file system. Then I want to define in what format I want the result to be. So I want the result to be inside tabular format. So I'll write table, right? Then my requirement is that the report of 𝗕𝗁𝗏 should not be generated inside the console log. Instead, it should be exported in a separate file. For that, I will write -o and I will write fs-report _html. Okay, so this basically says that I want to generate the I want to scan the file system, generate the report in tabular form, and I want that report to be written inside a separate file named fsreport.html, and it should be generated. Now here at the end we have to define the path which we want to scan. So I'll just put a dot. That means scan current directory. Okay, this is done. Next thing that we want to perform is SonarQube analysis. So I will write here SonarQube analysis. Okay, and let me correct the spellings. Now for writing stage for SonarQube, we need to again take help from what pipeline syntax. So I'll click on this, go here, expand this, and here you'll be able to see with SonarQube environment. You can see this with SonarQube environment. Click on that, and you can see it says there is no SonarQube instances configured. So basically what it means to say ki, from Jenkins we need to publish SonarQube report to SonarQube, right? But to this SonarQube. But as of now we have not connected this SonarQube server to Jenkins. How we can do that? So first of all, click on administration on SonarQube, security, users, and we need to generate a token, because if you want to connect to a website, any kind of website, two things you'll be needing: username and password, right? So username, password, and website URL. So these two things we need to have. So instead of username, password, we are going to use a token. We can name anything, generate, copy that token. Now we need to go to Jenkins. I'll go to manage Jenkins, then credentials. Again, it should be, I want it to be on global scope. Click on add credentials. Now since we have generated token and I want to add the token, that means the kind of the credential is going to change. It is going to be now secret text, because we just have a text, right? We don't have username and password. So here I can paste the token. ID we can provide the name as sonar dash token. Same thing I can put in description. Click on create. Now what I can do, so I have added the credentials, right? Now I need to make sure that Jenkins is able to connect to SonarQube. So for that we need to go to system. Now system is basically is a place where you configure servers and perform system level of configurations. Okay, if I scroll down, you'll be able to see one section which is SonarQube server. Now remember that this option is available because we have installed the plugin SonarQube scanner. Okay, now inside SonarQube installation, click on add SonarQube, provide a name like sonar, provide server URL which is this one till 9000, copy that, put it here, make sure to remove the last slash, and token we can select, and done. Okay, this is how we configure SonarQube. Now we can again go to pipeline syntax, go to with SonarQube environment, which is this one, and now you can see it's not giving error. Now what we can do, we can select the token, generate the block, copy that, and put it here. Now very interesting thing I'm going to tell you now. Here we have, you can see we have written credentials ID, right? So basically this block is assuming that the URL, see, as I told, two things will be needed: URL and credentials. So credential is defined here, right? So this block assumes that credential is inside mentioned here, so URL will be given inside the block, but that is not going to be a best practice. So what we are going to do, we are going to, let me show you something. So as you remember, I have configured already a server with which is having URL and credential with the name sonar, right? So instead of adding URL, like exposing the URL, instead of that we can simply provide the name of the server that we configured, that was name sonar, right? This one. So once I call it here, that means it is already having credentials and URL, right? So now we can write the commands inside this block. Now two things, if you for those who have already attended my SonarQube masterclass, you'll be knowing that when we work with SonarQube, two things are there. One is the server and one is the scanner. Scanner is the tool which is going to perform the analysis, generate the report, and publish the report to server. So what we configured now was server. Now we have to call or configure scanner. Okay, So if I go back here, if I show you manage Jenkins tools, here you'll be able to see something SonarQube scanner. Okay, and this is the tool that is going to perform the scanning and generate the report. So again, as you remember, as I told you, whenever you configure something inside tool section, you have to call it in the pipeline. How do we do? So basically, we are going to create an environment here. Environment block I'm going to create. Inside this, I'm going to create a variable named scanner underscore home. So basically, I'm saying that I'm calling the home directory of the Sonar scanner tool. You can see tool, this, then Sonar dash scanner. Okay. So basically, I have defined the tool, defined the Sonar scanner tool, and its home directory I have defined here. Now I can call it here. How I can do? First sh. This time 3 quotes I'm going to use. Inside this, I'm going to write, I'm going to call that scanner tool. Now, one more thing I'll tell you. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, here it is done. We'll come to that in a bit. First, whenever you install any tool inside Ubuntu machine, basically, it's how does it work? First will be its home directory. Then there will be a folder named bin. Inside bin, there will be a file that is basically an executable file. Okay, so if I want, let's say this is the structure of specific tool T1. So if I want to use T1 tool, if I want to execute T1 tool, I need to execute this file. Similarly, the Sonar scanner tool, its structure is also like that. Home directory, bin, and a executable file. So if I want to run SonarQube scanner tool, I need to execute this, right? And that's what we are going to do now. So home directory we have defined here, as you see, correct? Now I need to go inside that bin folder. So how we can do that? First dollar scanner underscore home, the home directory that we created above, slash bin, and then there will be the executable file which is named as same as tool, sonar dash scanner. Now basically here what I am doing, I am just executing the Sonar scanner tool. Okay, next thing what we have to do, we have to provide some parameters using which analysis will be done. What parameters? -d sonar dot project name, and name will be chat app. Okay, go to next line by using slash, sorry, and then again another parameter d sonar dot project key, k capital, remember that, and capital K capital. Same name I can put chat app. Okay, again go to next line, next parameter d sonar dot. Now since it's a Java project, so in these cases we need to provide a location of binary files also, which are basically byproducts that get created when you build the application. So I can write it dsonar.java.binaries. So where will be the location of binaries file? It will be inside target folder. Okay, and I can close this. This is how analysis will be done. Okay, now these many things we have added. Now add next thing, which is quality gate check. But before that, I'll add few more stages because again we'll be needing it. Okay, sorry, let me just match the number of brackets, they are correct or not. Steps, two brackets close, yeah, so this is fine. Okay, next thing what we have to do, next stage we have to add, which is going to be quality gate check. Now, many of you might not know about quality gate check, what exactly it is. So basically, when we perform the analysis using SonarQube scanner, the reports that generates, so we basically have our own you can say basic threshold or conditions, that if the report passes these conditions, then it should be considered that the code is compliant. Okay, so those conditions and checking of the conditions that our code is passed or not, we can write here. Okay, how we are going to write it? So before anything, first let me save this. First we'll go to 𝗏𝗏𝗏, go to here, administration, configuration, and webhooks. So basically the conditions that we have set up for code compliance, like checking code compliance of the source code, is set up inside 𝗏𝗏𝗏. But after checking, we want that it should Jenkins should be informed, right? That means a notification should be sent to Jenkins. So for that purpose, we have to set up a webhook. Okay, so name we can give anything you want, like 𝗏𝗏𝗏 webhook. URL is the basically format. First Jenkins URL will be there, which we can get from here. I can copy this and I can put here. Make sure to remove the extra slash. And this is the webhook that we need to configure for the quality gate check, so that 𝗏𝗏𝗏 can send notification to Jenkins telling that if code is compliance or not. Okay, once we have done that, we can go back to pipeline, and here again we are going to use pipeline syntax. Here first of all, we want to set up a timeout. So if I open this timeout, so why we are setting up timeout? Because I want that, because this checking of the compliance check, if our code is compliant or not. Basically, we don't know how much time it's going to take, but I want that it should not take more than 1 hour. If it's taking 1 hour, then it should be aborted. So for that purpose, I will write 1 hour. First of all, I'll write this, generate the block, take that block, paste here. Now inside this block, we are going to write about the information about the quality gate check. And for that, again, we can go to pipeline syntax. Here we'll be able to find wait for quality gate or something like that. You can see this option, wait for quality gate, select the token, generate, copy that, and put here. Now, in many situations, we want that if our code is not compliant, I want to stop the pipeline, right? So for that, you can simply write here as true. If you write true, then basically what happens, if your pipeline is not compliant, then pipeline is going to stop. But if you don't want that, you can simply put false. That means your pipeline is not going to get aborted if your code is not compliant, even that. Okay. Next thing, what we want to build our project. We'll want to build our application. So I'll write build, and here we can write sh mvn package. Sorry. Okay. And final thing, or next thing that we want to do before Docker is I want that my artifact should be published to Nexus. Okay. Again, I'm saying this before, that if you want to connect to any kind of website, what we need the website URL and the credentials, right? So if I want to publish anything to Nexus, I want to have Nexus URL and the credentials. How do we set those things? Okay. First, let me name this publish to Nexus. Sorry guys, it is taking little more time, but again, I'm saying this is worth it. This is the this is like whole thing. This is the whole flow. Okay. So two things we have to do. First, we have to for Nexus, we have to first set up the URL. Then we have to set up credentials. Okay. So first, let's talk about URL setup. Now, if I go to Nexus, here repositories. Now these are the repository where we want to publish our artifact. We have two specific repository that we are going to use, releases and snapshot. Difference is that for releases, Maven releases is supposed to be used for storing artifact for production environment, while snapshot is the repository that is supposed to store artifacts that is of lower environment. Okay. So first, releases, you can see there is an option to copy URL. So I'll copy that. I'll go to my repository, source code repository. Where is it? Chat app CI. Go to pom.xml file, and in this pom.xml file, we have to add the URL. If I go at the end, you'll be able to see this section, distribution management. This is the block inside which we have to add repository. Now, obviously, it is possible that many projects might not have this, but make sure to check it, note it down, or keep it somewhere. So first we have repository and then snapshot repository. Inside repository ID is Maven releases URL. So we are going to update the URL with the one that we have. Similarly, I'm going to take URL for snapshot, copy that, and here I'm going to update it. Okay. And guys, I'll take all the questions, but please wait because again, it's a very long process. So I'll just keep the questions ready. I'll take all the questions once we have implemented things. Okay. So okay. So URL we have added. Now next part is to add credentials. Okay. So first let me save the pipeline and I'll go to dashboard, go to manage Jenkins, and remember I installed a plugin config file provider because of which this option is present. Manage files. Open that. Click on add new config and here click on global maven settings.xml. This is the file which is going to store the credentials. I'll scroll down and here I'll provide a name as maven-settings. Click on next, scroll down, and this is the file where you have to add credentials. If I scroll down, you'll be able to see something like servers block, and here you can see details, server, right? Server ID, username, password. But it is commented, so I'm going to remove the comment and uncomment it. Okay, and here I can write repo ID, which is maven-releases. Then username and password we have to add. Username is admin, password is whatever you have set up. Okay, same thing we have to do for snapshot also. Releases we have added, snapshot also we have to add, which is going to be snapshots. Okay, now we have added both the things, that is URL also, credentials also, and now we can add it in our pipeline. So I can go here, configure, and let's scroll down here, this block. Now we can take help from pipeline syntax, and if you remember, I installed the plugin Maven pipeline Maven integration. Because of that, we'll be able to use one option which is with Maven. If I show you, you can see this option with Maven. Open that, select the Maven that you have. Maven 3 we configured, JDK it's going to be default one. Scroll down to global Maven setting, the one that we just configured, and rest we will just leave it is this block. Copy that block and put it here. Now Maven deploy command we are going to add here, okay, inside this block, so that Maven settings, you remember this is the settings.xml file we created, right? Now I can create sh mvn deploy, and now automatically the artifact is going to be deployed on it's going to get deployed on the Nexus. Okay, and let us create more stages. I guess we'll be needing a little bit more. I'll copy this and let's create more stages. Okay, so publish to Nexus is done. Next that we want to perform is going to be Docker build and tag image. I want to build Docker image and tag it as well. Now, in order to work with Docker, we need to make sure that we have Docker credentials ready, because we want to publish the Docker image to Docker Hub repository or any other kind of repository, whichever we want to work with. So for that, what I'm going to do, first of all, let's go to dashboard, manage Jenkins, credentials, global, add credentials, username, the Docker Hub username and password I'm going to add, 𝗬𝗏 Jaiswal, and password. ID you can give whatever you want. I'm just going with Docker grid. Okay, and this is done. We can go here, go to pipeline syntax and go at the end, and you'll be able to find with a Docker registry. Open that, select the credentials. Now, if you are using a private Docker registry, you have to provide the URL. If you are not using private Docker registry, then you can leave it as it is. Generate the block, copy the block, go to pipeline. Now, when you are working with Docker images, you have to make sure that your commands or your blocks are enclosed inside a script block. So I'm going to create script, add it here. And now we can write our commands here. Now, my requirement is that I want that whenever I build a Docker image, the tag of the Docker image should be a variable kind of thing. That means it should be something uh, like it should be automatically getting changed. For example, if I build my pipeline first time, tag should be version 1. If I build my pipeline second time, tag should be version 2, like that. So how do we configure? So basically there is a default keyword that is known as build number. So we can use that keyword as the tag. If I show you, where is it, this Jenkins file? See, if you see closely, we can add this in our environment where we can use a variable named image tag, and whose value is going to be v, then dollar build number. Build number is a default keyword. Okay. And same thing, if I scroll down, if I show you here, Docker build, you can see here, this is the Docker image name /chatap dollar image underscore tag. And that's what we can do. If I go here, I can add another environment here, which is build number. And now here I can write sh double quotes docker build -t, then any username you want to set up, sorry, Docker image name, which is going to be first username /chat app : then we can put dollar image underscore tag, then a dot means the location of Docker image, sorry, location of Docker file. Okay. Now, once Docker image is built, I want to scan the Docker image. For that, I can use 𝗕𝗏. So I can write the command 𝗕𝗏 image scan, and here I can put sh quotes 𝗕𝗏. This time instead of fs, we are going to write image, but rest of the things is going to be almost similar. That means format of the report, which is going to be table. I want to export the output inside separate file, which is going to be image-report.html. Then instead of putting location of the directory, we are going to put the image name, which is this one. That also we are using a variable so that it's going to be automatically fetching the scanning the latest image. Once scan is done, we want to publish or push our Docker image. So I'm going to add this, and this will be Docker publish or Docker image push. Anything you want, you can write. And here I can write Docker push, and let's remove the dot. Now, till this we have done, right? Next step would be that once we have Docker image built, we want to update that Docker image inside the CD repository. So for that, we have to write a little bit command, which is basically going to which is going to create a clone of the CD repository, go inside the CD repository folder, then using sed command. What we do using sed command, we can first find the thing that we want to update or make changes or basically do replacement till. So what I want, /chatap : $.star, that means tag I want to update. Okay, here this is the new tag. You can see this is getting updated, and this is the information we are telling that the in which file we want to make changes. So I want to make changes into manifest.yaml file. Okay. Okay. So this we have to add now. So I can copy this as well. 1 second. Now, I'll just leave one block. You have to leave it because this stage that we are going to write, which is for updating our repository, which is going to be last stage, and this will be the closing of whatever stages we have written. Okay, so I'm going to write it here. Now if I show you in detail what exactly we are doing, we are simply, first of all, I'm using this function also. Why? Because I want to clean the workspace before we update. Because if you are having multiple .git folder or this kind of thing, it's going to, there will be conflict. For that purpose, I'm just cleaning the repository first. Then we are cloning the repository credentials, the one that we have already set up, git, right? If I, let me check credential is correct or not. Git create is their credential. So I'll just copy this and update here. Okay, and then using this command git clone, username password will provide in a variable format so that it's not exposed. We are going to clone the cd repository. Then we are going to go inside the cd repository, then make changes using sed. We are going to use sed command for replacing the tag, and then we are going to verify using cat command again, and then we are going to run the, sorry, I think we have missed something about extra. Okay, so then we are going to run the command. We are going to add credentials, basically username and email you can add, then git add command, commit, and push command. So let's do one thing. We have added a lot of things, and let's run this one time just to see what kind of error do we get or what. Okay, so first we have some error. Now what is the error? Let me go again here, configure. Probably the error might be like two stages might be having same name. That might be the error. Build and tag, publish. Let me count the brackets as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. There should be one more. Four. I think here we are missing. We are putting extra. Okay. So let's run this and let's see. So it has started, and now this is going to take quite some time, because you can see we just ran this pipeline for the first time. So when you run the pipeline for the first time, it's going to install whatever tools we have defined. First, you can see it's unpacking the Sonar scanner tool. Okay, so let's wait for this. Meanwhile, this is happening, team, just to let you know, our new batch 8 is live. You will be getting immediate access to all the content, and total number of hours that we are that is available in this course is 100 plus. Simply, even for Kubernetes we have 16 hour of content. For Docker we have more than 8 hours. For 𝗖𝗍 we have almost 10 hours. Okay, we have for Jenkins we have 7 hours, like that. And for Linux we have more than 11.5 hours. Okay, so you can check it out. All the details will be in the description, I believe. If not, you can just go to DevOpsShack.com and you can enroll to latest course. Okay, if you want to and again I'm saying it's immediate access to all the content. There will be live sessions, even though it is pre-recorded, but still I'm doing few live sessions which will be for project implementations on GitHub Actions, GitLab CI/CD, Jenkins, with different kind of projects. Okay, so yeah, if you want to check it out, you can enroll. Immediate access of all the content will be done. Okay, coming back to our pipeline, so here we can see it's running, and since it is running for the first time, so it's going to take a little bit of time. So we have to be just a little bit of patience. So meanwhile this is running, we can configure our EKS cluster. Okay, now here cluster is set up, but still we do not have access and we have not done anything else, right? What things we have to do? First of all, we need to make sure that we have installed 𝗏𝗃ctl, because we are going to communicate with Kubernetes cluster using 𝗏𝗃ctl. So I'm going to run the command to install 𝗏𝗃ctl, and let's wait for this. Meanwhile, once that part is done, next what we have to do, we have to install EKSCTL also. Now very interesting thing about 𝗕𝗂𝗃𝗃, I'll tell you. Give me 1 second. Yeah, as I told you in a bit previously that we are going to use two 𝗖𝗍 tools. First, Terraform, which we have already used, right? Talking about second one, which is CloudFormation. I'll tell you something that when you sorry when you execute a command using 𝗖𝗍CTL, when you execute a command to create some kind of resource, so that resource will be created by CloudFormation. And CloudFormation is another 𝗖𝗍 tool. That means if I want to create any resource and I am running 𝗖𝗍CTL command, then that that information will be going to CloudFormation, and CloudFormation will be creating those resources. Okay. Again, I'm trying to integrate everything so that I can show you usage of all the things. So 𝗖𝗍CTL we have installed, right? Now, once we have kubectl installed, we are going to run one command, which is this one: aws eks region update kubeconfig. Why? Because if I show you, see, kubectl we have installed, but if I run this command kubectl get nodes, you can see connection refused, because as of now we have not connected to the Kubernetes cluster, because we don't have any kubeconfig file. So we need to first have kubeconfig file, which is going to be created for us using this command. Okay, that kubeconfig file also act as a like an authentication for us. Now if I run kubectl command, you can see we are able to see the worker node. Okay, this is done. What is next step? Next step is we need to execute this command: EKSCTL utils associate 𝗖𝗍𝗿𝗍𝗃 provider. Basically, OpenID connect provider we are going to associate. Why? Because since we want that inside our Kubernetes cluster, whatever resources we create, like pods or service accounts, they can assume IAM rules. Why? Because you can think that, let's say we have a pod. That pod wants to access or get volume from EBS volume, right? So for that, it's going to assume some role, and then it's going to get access to that volume. So for that purpose, we need to execute this command so that like service account or pods can assume IAM rules. Next thing that we have to do, we have to create a service account. Which service account? EBS CSI controller, so that creation and management of the EBS volumes can be done. And here you can see we are attaching the policy CSI driver also to this service account, so that this can manage the this volumes. Now you can see here I'm using EKSCTL, and as I told you that EKSCTL is going to work with where is it? Here. It's going to work with CloudFormation. So let me open CloudFormation so that I can show you. As of now, there is no stack. As soon as I execute this command, click enter, you can see deploying stack. Okay, waiting for CloudFormation stack. Now, if I go back here, refresh the page, you'll be able to see that CloudFormation has started creation of that service account. Okay, that's why, that's the reason that I wanted to show, because I'm using different kind of tools so that I can show usage of all those things. And these are the kind of products you can easily add in your resume, mention that okay, I have used this tool also, I have used this tool also, like that. Okay, so let's wait for this. So once that part is done, then we'll be having three more things to install. First thing, we need to deploy AWS CSI driver pods, so that again, management of the EBS volumes. Then we have this one, ingress nginx controller, so that since we are going to set up the ingress, so for that it will be needed. Then cert manager also we are setting up, so that because we are going to set up SSL certificates also. Okay, so let's wait for this to complete. Yeah, this is done. Next thing I can do, run this command, and let's wait for this. And then we need to install nginx ingress controller. And last thing that we have to do is for cert manager. Okay. Okay. Now, since as I told you, we are going to use all the different kind of tools, so I want to use Helm also in my project. So I'm going to set up Helm also. I'm going to install Helm as well. Okay, these tools are set up, and side by side, if I show you here, our pipeline is also successful. And here, if I go to repository, where is it? CD repository. If I go to CD repository, we should be able to see the changes done inside manifest file. If I show you manifest.yaml, scroll down, and team, in this YAML manifest file, I have added everything. We have added this one, sorry, this one, liveness probe, readiness probe, those also, resources also, all the things we have added. And if I show you, where is it? You can see version 2. Docker image with help of second pipeline, image has been tag has been changed to version 2. Okay, that means CI pipeline is working fine. But one more thing that we should be adding in our CI pipeline is the notification email, right? Now, how do we add it? So first of all, go at the end and just before the last bracket. Okay, before the last bracket, you have to add a code. Now, before we add a code, if I show you, first of all, so I'll copy from here. Sorry. Okay. So here, if you see closely, I have just written this code. I have not written, to be frankly. It was something like in my company I used it, so I just pick it up from here. Okay, so here basically this section will be from our side, like what we are interested in. Here we have written to, from, and reply to. Basically, this is the email where we want to send notification about the deployment done or not. From where it will be showing Jenkins@devopsshack.com, this kind of thing. Okay. Now, for this to work, what we have to do, we have to make some changes. So I'll go to dashboard, manage Jenkins, system. Again, I told you that those system level configuration we have to do inside system section. Okay, and go at the end till you find email notification and extended email notification. First, now SMTP server, which SMTP we are working with. So I have made video on Outlook also, but here we are using Gmail. So for Gmail, the SMTP server is smtp.gmail.com. Port is going to be a port, depends on what kind of this you want to use. If you write SSL, you have to mention the port as 465. If I use TLS, then I have to mention the port as 587. That's why I told you that in security group, make sure that you have opened 587 port. Then we have credentials. Here, what credentials we have to add? So basically, if I show you, 1 second, if I copy this, go here, a password. So in credentials, you have to add the username and the password. Okay, that password you have to generate. Okay, so first of all, that URL that I just copied, this app password URL, that you have to copy, and then you have to also make sure that this option will be available only if you have enabled the two-step verification on your email. Once you have enabled, then you have to put the password here. Let me put mine. I don't remember my password actually. 1 second. So once you put the password, there will be a pop-up coming. You can see this was my previous app password. These are app password are quite secure because these app password cannot be used by someone else to log in into your account. They can be used only with some kind of application like Jenkins. So I'll put a name like Jenkins, create, and now this is the app password. So I'll copy that, keep it here. Okay. Now we have the app password available. Now what we can do, we can go here to our Jenkins in credentials, click on add, and here first put the email for which you have generated the password, and then the password that we just generated, the app password. Remember that. Copy this, Put it here. ID you can put like mail create or something like that, and description also same. Click on add. You will select it now. Okay, scroll down now and go to email notification, second one. Here also smtp.gmail.com advanced TLS SMTP port 587 because we are using TLS. Reply to address if you want. You can add office at the rate DevOpsShack.com. Save this, and now we can test it. So we can test. Let's say I'll just write some email. Write email address to which I want to add. .chase@the rate.com. Let's see what happens. Okay. So authentication error is there. Okay. So let's double check everything. From here, smtp.gmail.com, smtp port 587, credentials. I think let me just update the credentials properly so that we can confirm that there is no error. I can go here, credentials, create. Let me just create new one. Add credentials. Username will be the email for which you generated. And password, we created this password. Mail. Seems fine. This we will go here smtp SMTP authentication, and here also we are going to put the credentials and the password that we just generated. Let me copy it properly because and let's test it out. Okay, email was successfully sent. We can confirm this by seeing the email, and you can see we just got the email. That means it is working fine. Okay, sorry, let me save these changes. Okay, so now next time if I run this pipeline, we are going to get notified as well. Okay, now what we have to do? So coming back to EKS cluster, so most of the things we have already configured, but as of now we have not set up the service accounts, right? That means we have to set up service account. So if I basically inside this repository itself, we had the files for service account creation. If I go here, sorry, not this one. This has the service account RBAC folder. Inside this we have the commands to create. So first we have to create the service account named Jenkins. But if I show you, you'll be able to see that it is getting created in that namespace web apps. So we need to make sure that namespace is created. So I'll run the command kubectl create namespace web apps. I'll run this and it is created. Next thing that we have to do is create one file. I'm going to name this svc.yaml, and I'll put the contents of creation of service account. Save this and I'll run the command 𝗬𝗏ctl apply-f svc.yaml. Service account Jenkins created, great. Second thing that we have to do is basically now create rules. Inside rules, you'll be able to see that I want to create rules that is going to be a role, give permission on secrets, config map, PVC, service, pods, deployment, replica set, ingress, and horizontal pod autoscalers, right? So I'm going to create this role. Once this role is created, I need to assign this role to the service account Jenkins. So I'll role.yaml content, put it here. One more thing, just remember that when I was writing this file, so first time I wrote it, it was not correct. We have to make sure that we are adding patch also, because when first time when I wrote it, I did not add patch, and whenever I was deploying second time, it was failing. So okay, now I can run this command 𝗬𝗏ctl apply-f role. One more thing, team, you'll be able to see that all the resource that I'm creating, it is specific to web apps. This is also web apps, right? Next thing that we have to do, we have to assign this role to service account. For that, we have to create role binding. So I'll create it rbs.yaml. I'll put it here, save this and run the command 𝗬𝗏ctl apply-f rb. This is also done. Now Jenkins has permission to work with these kind of resources, but there are few more resources that I want Jenkins to have access to, which is persistent volume, storage class, and cluster issuer. Cluster issuer is the resource that is going to create the certificate for us, SSL certificate. So I'll create cluster rule. These are cluster level rules. Okay, and I'm going to write the name cr.yaml, paste the contents, save this, 𝗬𝗏ctl apply-f cr.yaml. Okay, now these roles we created, but now we have to assign these roles to Jenkins. For that, cluster role binding, create that 𝗣𝗏𝗃.yaml. Any name you can put, it's up to you. Save this and 𝗬𝗏ctl apply-f crb. Now Jenkins service account has complete permission to perform deployment of cluster level scope also, cluster level resources also, and namespace levels resources also. But how do we use Jenkins? So basically we have to create a token for Jenkins. Okay, how we can do that? We have to create a circuit for Jenkins. If I show you, if I scroll down, we have this command link of official page. Here we have to create this. We have to copy this, create 𝗣𝗏sec.yaml, put it here, and here few changes we have to make. First of all, service account name we have to change, which is Jenkins in our case, right? This name, if you want, you can change, but I'll just leave it to my secret name, and we will save this. Now, one thing you'll be able to notice here, nowhere I have mentioned about namespace. Okay, but I want to create this resource inside namespace. So for that, we'll run the command 𝗬𝗏ctl apply-f sec-n web apps. Now I'm saying that I want to create this secret inside web apps. Okay, secret also got created. Now what we can do, we can get the token of this secret using command 𝗬𝗏ctl describe secret, and secret name in our case, that is this one, where it exists inside web apps. Sorry, 𝗬𝗏ctl. And this token that you see, that is the token that we are going to use for authentication from Jenkins to Kubernetes. So I'll copy that and I will paste it here. Okay, now this is done, and now we can go ahead and we can perform the deployment of our resources. But before that, one more thing, if I can show you. So I told you that we can use webhooks also, and I want to set up webhooks so that if any kind of changes I am pushing to CI repository, it should trigger the CI pipeline immediately. Okay, how we can set up webhook? So I have one documentation I created this morning. So we have to install generic webhook trigger plugin first. So let's do that. I'll go to dashboard, manage Jenkins, plugins, and here we will search for generic plugins, generic webhook trigger, install it. This is specific for like when you want to work with different branches, then this plugin should be used. Once you install this, and once you then you have to go to pipeline configure, you'll be able to see some option trigger builds. You can see generic webhook trigger. Okay, now we have to add modify these things. So first we have post content parameter. In that, what we have to add, if I show you, you see we have installed this and this, and post content parameter we have to add what we have, ref we have to add, let me see, ref expression will be, we have $.ref, I guess, this one. Okay, and we can add it here, $.ref. Scroll down, scroll down, and we have this section token. So basically both of them are same, token and token credentials. This is more secure and this is less secure. Okay, for now I'll just go with this DevOps Shack. Any token you can put. Okay, make sure that you remember this DevOps Shack, and let's rest what we have. I think an optional filter we have to add token. So in optional filter we have to add this expression refs heads main. In place of main you have to put whichever branch you want to trigger the pipeline to. Okay, so I'm just keeping it main, and in text I'll just put $ref. Ref is basically a reference. Okay, and now this is fine. Let me save this, and remember we have to take a URL also from here, which is going to be something like this. I'll copy this and I'll go here. So URL is supposed to be like this. Okay, so first we have to put the Jenkins URL, and which we have this one. I'll copy that, put it here. Then we have token. The value of token was DevOps Shack, correct? Once we have done this, we can copy. And now we have to go to, let me save this, and now we have to go to GitHub. Where was GitHub? And remember this, I'm doing this for CI pipeline as of now. Repositories, CI pipeline, settings, webhooks, add webhook. So I have like this one enabled. 1 second, let me 51. Payload URL. So we have to add the one that we just created, and this should be JSON. And since we do not have SSL configured Jenkins, so we are just going to go disable with it. And this push event, you can decide like on what events you want to trigger the pipeline. So I'll click on add a webhook. Okay, I'll open this and let's see if it works or not. So in recent delivery, you can see it's tick mark. That means it is working. But still, just to confirm that it's still working, I can go to the repository, Docker file, edit, and I'll just put some space here. Okay, and I'll commit changes, and we should immediately go to CI pipeline. You can see here in the quiet period. Okay, and immediately now this pipeline is going to start. You'll be able to see. You can see pipeline started, and here we can see generic cause. That means it got triggered because of some push that we did inside the repository. Okay, so now we know about this also. Now let's go and let's create the CD pipeline. So let's name this as CD pipeline and create it. Part of best practice, just 2 builds I'll keep in history. Scroll down and let us create hello world. Sorry, let me create a few stages. First is going to be git checkout for the cloning of repository of that one GitHub repository of CD. Okay, I'll write the name as git checkout. Spelling should be like this. It should be, now we can use pipeline syntax to create the script. We can go to git, and where is our CD repository? This one. I can copy this, and here this, and branch is going to be main credentials that we have set up, git cred, generate, and git checkout is done. Next thing that I want is that direct deployment. So for that, I'm going to write the name as K8, sorry, and deploy to K8. Okay. Now Kubernetes also contains that kind of commands that we have to use the block. So I'll go to this pipeline syntax, and here we'll find something with kubeconfig. You can see this. Open that. Now credentials. Click on, okay, here it's not adding, so I'll just go here, dashboard, manage Jenkins, credentials, global, add credentials. Now what credentials we have to add? This token that we generated for the Jenkins service account. So I can copy that, and since it is a kind of secret text, I'll put it here. ID will be K8-token, and I can put it here. Click on this, added here. Let me refresh it, and we have with kubeconfig. Where is it? This one. Credentials we can select Kubernetes server endpoint that we'll be able to get inside our this Elastic Kubernetes service. Open this, and here you will see API server endpoint. So copy that, paste it here. Cluster name, that also will be able to get from here. And namespace, so we are working with web apps, and that's all. Block is generated. We can copy this block, we can put it here, and now we can write our deployment commands here. So first I'm going to write sh _kubectl apply -f. Now my files are stored inside manifest folder, correct? And first I want to deploy manifest.yaml. So I'll write manifest/manifest.yaml. I want to deploy it inside web apps namespace. Then next to this, I want to deploy another thing. Let me write it. Next thing that I want to deploy, HPA. So I'll write that as well. Okay. Next to that, I want to deploy, we have Ingress and we have CI, cluster issuer. So both of them, one by one, we are going to deploy. So first it's going to be Ingress, or maybe CI would be good. And next would be Ingress. Spelling should be correct. Okay. Once deployment is done, I want to let this pipeline sleep for 30 seconds so that any kind of changes are there, they should be done. Okay, and I'm going to copy this to another stage so that we can verify changes also. And here we are going to add verify the deployment. And now I can run the commands kubectl get pods. Have some patience, bro. And here we can write get 𝗪𝗃. Okay. Now we have two more things, which is ingress also we want to check. So I'm going to write that as well. Get ingress. Okay. Now let us run this. And let's, okay. So let me just check again everything. Okay, I want to check for one more thing, which is volumes. So I need to use volumes also. I need to get volumes. So I'll just run _kubectl get pv. Now for pv, you can see I'm not writing namespace name because it's a cluster level resource. Okay. Yeah. So let us run this and let's hope everything goes well. Okay, so we have some error. Let's see. _kubectl not found. So basically, since we are going to run commands from Jenkins, we need to make sure that _kubectl is installed on Jenkins as well. So let's install _kubectl on Jenkins. This command will be enough to do that. And _kubectl directly I'm installing over the Jenkins machine. So I can go here. I can directly run it. Okay, this is done, and let us trigger our pipeline one more time. And let's see how it goes. So as you can see, deployment of all the resources done, HPA done, CI done, ingress done, and other resources, secret config, storage class, then PVC, MySQL service, then deployment, and yeah, both the service has been done. So let's wait for this. Helm we are going to use with respect to setting up monitoring servers, monitoring tools. Now, quite interesting thing is that key. Sorry, one second. Here, what things we are able to get information. You can see storage class is available. This PV I searched, and this is the volume that we have created for our MySQL PVs, MySQL of the application, MySQL database. Okay. Here the thing is key, when you set up ingress, so inside this address bar you should be able to see a load balancer URL, but it takes little bit of time to get generated. Okay. So now what we are going to do, we are going to go to infra server and we are going to run the commands _kubectl. We are going to directly check here _kubectl get ingress -n web apps. And you can see here now load balancer URL is visible. That means fine. Next thing that we are going to check if our SSL certificate is generated or not. So that also I can get _kubectl get certificates. Sorry, it should be in web apps. Okay, certificate got generated, but here ready status is false. Okay, so we have to wait for some time. Meanwhile, I can run small command _kubectl describe certificate. This is the certificate name -n web apps. Okay. So here you'll be able to see that it's saying does not exist most of the places. Basically, see again I'm saying similar to this one, like this address, this load balancer URL of ingress, it got generated little bit late. Similar to that, we have to wait for certificate also to generate it, but yeah, it will be generated. So let's wait for this. And meanwhile, what we can do, since we have this _kubectl get ingress -n web apps. So since we have the load balancer URL, which we are going to use for domain mapping. So I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to use GoDaddy platform. If I go here, So on GoDaddy platform, basically I have few domains. So I'm going to use one of them. Okay, before that, one more thing I should be showing you, ingress URL. Here, if you're able to see, first of all, this is the domain that I'm using, 𝗪𝗏𝗃 slash other than that, slash login slash registers and slash. For these two things, login and register, I'm using path type as exact, because previously I was facing issue of loop, like everything was going in loop, and like it was very bad situation today morning. So for that, to avoid that situation, I just use exact, and then I'm using prefix in path, this one. That means other than that, the general path. Okay. And yeah, now coming back to GoDaddy. So here, first of all, I'm going to go to my products. I have few domains. That one, my 𝗪𝗏𝗃. There I'm going to this one. I'll open the DNS, and here what I have to do in DNS records we have to modify. Since we are working, we received a URL like this one. So if you have received URL, you have to modify CNAME record. And I'm going to open this, remove the previous URL, add the new load balancer URL. Okay, and save this. Now, once you save this is going to take little bit of time to reflect. Okay. Meanwhile, once it is done, then you should be able to access things on here. But again, I'm saying this is not yet done. Okay. So yeah, let's wait for this to do. And meanwhile, this is getting done. What we can do, we can proceed. Meanwhile, one more command I can run here, and let's look up to www.shackverse.co. You can see mapping is done. That's why when I ran the ns lookup command, which is supposed to give us server details of any domain, and you can see it is resolving to the correct one. Okay, that means it is working fine. The 𝗕𝗏𝗃𝗃𝗦𝗃. Okay, but still it's not in running status, so we have to be patient. Okay, meanwhile, few other things that we can do: 𝗬𝗏ctl get _n web apps, just to confirm that okay, we have crash loop backoff error, that's why application is not running. Okay, so first thing that I can do is check the status, 𝗬𝗏ctl describe pod, and we can check the status why it is in crash loop backoff error. Okay, backoff restarting field continuous settlement pod. Okay. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me try to delete these pods. 𝗬𝗏ctl delete pod and web apps. Okay, and let's see the status now. Okay, so now it's going into running state, and let's see how it goes. Previously something got stuck or something, I'm not sure, but yeah. And here I can set the status also, 𝗬𝗏ctl describe pod, and the pod name that we have -n web apps. Okay, so now it's working fine. Great. Okay, one restart already done. 1 second. Okay, it's going into crash loop. Let's see. 𝗬𝗏ctl Let's see logs also. kubectl logs. Okay, the error seems with respect to application code actually. Okay, so what I can do now, so I need to modify few things. 1 second. Let me see if we have. Okay. These kind of things happen when you have to debug. See, this is basically when someone else create application, and if something goes wrong, then yeah, it comes to us. Okay, we'll try to fix things. Config, we have security config, and here it was this one. So we will modify this, update in config also. Okay, so I think pipeline might be triggered. Let me stop it. And we will trigger one more time. Okay, so now let's see if this new version builds, and then we'll try to deploy the new version of our artifact, and let's see how it goes. Because here its application is not at all getting started. This issue is with respect to the application source code, it seems, not with respect to deployment. So yeah, still let's see how it goes. Okay, meanwhile this is happening, what we can do, we can set up our monitoring tools, and so that we can explore the Helm part also. So I believe I have installed Helm already on my machine, and let's see. Okay, Helm is already present. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set up these monitoring tools using Helm. For that, what we'll be needing, so we need to set up a values.yaml file, which will be having information about what kind of which components will be having what ports, and which components will be having volumes and all. So for that, I'll create values.yaml. Inside that, the content that we just copied, which has information about node exporter, cube state matrix, Grafana, and Prometheus as well. Once this is done, we need to make sure that we have added repository for Prometheus Helm chart. Okay, and I'll do this, and I need to update as well. Now here this is done. So now let's try running the CD pipeline. Yeah. Meanwhile, this is done, and now we can run the command to set up our monitoring tools. For that, if you notice here, I'm using helm upgrade install command. Basically, why I'm using upgrade and install command together, because we are doing this for the first time. But in case if you are doing this for the second time or third time, we are just upgrading. In that case, this will be really useful. Okay. So for that purpose, I'll just run this. This is going to, you can see release monitoring does not exist, but it is now installing. Side by side, we can see the status here as well. Deployment is done, I guess. This is configured. Okay. Let me check the status now. kubectl till get ports -n web apps. Okay. So first one, this one, I'm going to delete this pod so that new one can be created. Wait 1 second. Okay, so now we can see the status running, and I need to just check the logs also so that we can confirm that application is running or not. So I can run kubectl logs pod details -n web apps, and seems fine. We don't see any error. Okay, so still it's not yet up. Okay. The certificate is ready, but the SSL certificate is ready, but we are having some issue in Ingress. So I'm going to reapply this Ingress. I'm going to delete it first. ctl delete Ingress name. Okay. And let's do one thing. Let us run our CD pipeline one more time so that Ingress can be created. Okay, Ingress is created now, and okay. Get CI. It's working. I don't see it's working. Okay, you are saying a URL is working. One second. My URL is wrong or what? Because I'm not able to access, but you guys are able to access. But yeah, that's great then. Once again, let me try to. One second, let me try to check in Edge actually. Yes, I tried. Okay, I guess if it's working for you guys, then it's fine. I'm not sure if my cache I need to clean or something. Okay, anyways, so I think we have set up Prometheus also, and what else we have to do? Next thing, what I want to do. So basically, Prometheus, Grafana, and Node Exporter. I want to have the load balancer URL for them. So I can copy this, and I can put it in browser here, and it's going to set up the load balancer URL for all those three. Now, if I try to set get kubectl get all -n monitoring. So monitoring tools I have set up using load balancer using Helm inside this, and I can get this. Okay, so I can one by one get the communication. First, I will open the Grafana, and then we can try to access. We have Prometheus. And I think we have set up password also. A password for Grafana. I have set up admin@123. So I can put it in browser, and we are logged into Grafana. And for Prometheus, I guess it's on 1990 port or something. One second, let me check. Okay, so here if I go to target, we have multiple targets. Now I can directly, basically, when you are the way that I'm setting up, it's already connected to our cluster. So now if I go to Grafana, go to connections. Here, if I search for Prometheus, add new data source, and here URL we have to give, which is this one. I'll give till 1990. I'll paste it here, and directly we can test. Now I can go to dashboards, and by default you'll be able to find all the different dashboards. Best part is that with respect to namespace pods, for example, here we have web apps. So inside web apps we have three pods. All details are here, but best part is that in different formats we are having. Okay, for example, let's say this is namespace, sorry, workloads. Here also, if I go to this one, okay, so it means with respect to all the resources, different kind of resources, you'll be able to see in different formats. Okay, and these dashboards will be pre-default available, will be available by default. You don't have to worry about anything. Okay, So this is how we can set up whole thing up, and I hope we complete this. And as you guys are already saying that deployment is done, but for me, I'm not sure if something is wrong from my side or what. One more time, I'll just see. Mm, 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 mm. Code www.shackworks.co. Okay, I'm getting from one redirect. Guys, I'm not sure if it's not working on my side, but since you guys are saying, so it's fine. Hey, give me 1 second, guys. Okay, 1 second. Yes, now I think I can take questions, guys. Try in your mobile. Yes, sure. Let me check. Course.co. Yes, it's working in my phone also. I'm not sure something wrong with my laptop or something. Okay, great. Okay, hopefully it's working now. So yeah, now I can take questions, guys. If you have any other questions, we can take questions now. Okay, 1 second. I think it's working on my machine also. Let me try to use it once. Once, give me 1 second. Let me see if it is working or not. Okay, it seems it is working, guys. Great. Okay, guys, you can take questions now. Whatever questions you are having. Give me. Great, Surya. Thank you. So yeah, I can see here also. If I show you my screen. So yes, certificate also configured and certificate is also working fine, and custom domain mapping also done, and application is accessible. Okay. In backend, there might be some issues but that issue is with respect to the application code, not with the deployment. So deployment works fine for us, and yeah, this is the best possible way that you can go ahead and you can perform deployments. Once again, guys, let me read questions. Secret for service and cloud formation. What was that about? Deepak, yes, we created one service account which was specific for managing the EBS volumes. That's why we gave it, we attached the policy of EBS driver policy for that service account. Adibia circle 𝗖𝗹𝗃𝗀𝗃 tutorial. Sure, Tejas, but not around. In future, I'll try to make it. How to troubleshoot in Kubernetes application slowness. So we know DevOps. What I would suggest, in my opinion, if you have some monitoring tool, you can monitoring the usage of, you can monitor the usage of resources on that pod. If you see, sorry, if you see that that pod is using high level of CPU and RAM, then you get some idea. Okay, like it is getting used, or like it is using more resources or not. From there, then you can figure out like if what kind of resources or what kind of services or what kind of process is using that much resource within the pod. How to process this project information, understand, explain to interviewer. I'll try to make a separate video on that. Okay. And bring diverse projects, sure. GitHub repo, sure. Do we need to set up this kind of project multiple times, understand each tool? I wouldn't recommend to set it up multiple times. One time you have to do. Even if it's not working, it's fine, but you just have to set it up by yourself to understand complete flow. How do we manage RDS DB deployment? How do we connect DB created using RDS service? So Nitin, I have not worked with that, but also bring 𝗕𝗏𝗃 and carpenter tutorials. Sure, sure. Okay, guys. Any other questions you want to have? You want to ask? The crash loop. So Jaideep, actually, sorry, I'm pronouncing your name wrong. So this crash loop backup error, there is not a fixed reason. There are certain reasons for which it might come, but in general, when you are getting crash loop backup error, the first thing that we try to do is check the logs and describe the pod. From there, you get basic idea what exactly is happening. But if someone asking ki crash loop backup error, see, there could be many reasons. For example, one common reason is that ki your this the issue that we were getting, but you saw the for us the crash loop backup error that was happening, it was happening because of the application source code, not with respect to deployment part. So it could be of different reasons, but we get to know about that once you check the logs of the application as well as describe the pod. Rishabh, Nexus stage, how to store artifacts for non-Java. Yes, so actually in my course I covered for Node.js also. There are different ways using which you can store artifact for different kind of application. Whether social, yes, it be of nodes are created, but thank you. So, purpose launching Kubernetes cluster using Rancher. Nexus registry also, Rancher I have not worked with. The Nexus registry also is there. So even in my company, we did not use any kind of like cloud Docker registry or Docker private registry. We set up our own Docker private registry inside Nexus. Commonly, how many worker nodes and master nodes we do have in real time? It depends. See, it's purely up to how many projects you are deploying. If you are deploying a small project, then it could be like small number of worker nodes. But if you are deploying multiple projects, a big project, then there could be more number of worker nodes. Preferable because pre-write we can go with another like certificate. There are different kind of there are different kind of certificate providers. I am using the free one. There is an organization known as Let's Encrypt. So from there you can get free certificates, and that's what I'm using. Launching Kubernetes cluster using naturally is complicated. There video on this. I have not worked with that Sunny as of now. In future, I'll try to make some video on that. Okay. Mm, Bro, Razorpay for me it's not at all working at this point, so it's little hard for me to tell anything about Razorpay. It's not working for me. How to send? Can we use Ansible for provisioning? Yes, you can use Ansible for provisioning, but when it comes to best practices, it's better to go with Terraform for Ansible like resource provisioning. Please put one reference. Reference for what, Aditya Naik? Will this project be free? Yes, the project is free, but see, before if I share you, as I say, today itself you saw that I have to modify a few things inside the source code. So from what I understand, this project is not completely working at this point. So I have to modify this little bit. What is the best way to use deploy DB? So Nitin, at this point, best way to deploy, I cannot say that it's a best way, but one of the really good ways that using dynamic volumes, and EBS is the best example for it, because you don't have to worry about creating the volume. You do have to worry about deleting it, because by default it does not delete. But yeah, because dynamically it's going to create. You just have to provide information like how much volume you want. How to renew cert when it's expired? So I think when you set up certificate, there is a notification email also which will be triggered automatically to you. Plus you can set up one cron job which is going to renew the cert automatically. There are multiple ways. Can I put on YouTube channel? Yes, Surya, so I'll make separate video for YouTube, then I'll upload it. Can we integrate AWS auto scaling groups to self-manage? I'm not sure if we can do that, like integrate auto scaling groups to self-manage cluster. How to send notification to multiple email? You have to configure. You have to just use a comma and then you can add multiple emails. But we use something different in my company. We had a separate script. It was like it was having email notification. like groups. We had groups like 3 email in one group, second group 4 email, like that. So we were sending notification email to multiple groups. It was quite interesting actually. And project deployment using Java, sure. And please upload this video on YouTube channels, sure. Which is the best way to deploy use like this project or RDS? See, I have not worked with RDS, but I'm using EBS volumes, and in my opinion, it's much better because it's dynamic. Okay. Could you please share the steps to follow for implementation? Shrish, I'll share this. And I think Shrish, you are already in batch 7. So there I have already added all the code, and the separate Golden Cat project also I have added. You can refer that. Same code I have shown. Can we integrate AWS auto scaling group? So not sure about that. How to take a CD file based on CI pipeline success? Yes. So Deepak, there is a concept of upstream downstream using which you can set up in a way that once your CI pipeline is completed, it will trigger the CD pipeline. So that option is there. My 1500 servers, bro. 1500 servers. I have not managed it, so I cannot say. Briefly on topology constant directly. Okay, I'll check the email. What is the using load balancer? There are multiple ways, Parvez. Actually, node port is there, but it's not secure. Load balancer is there, but again, it's not the best one. So best option you can go with ingress only. Use this project repository for practice. Yes, you can. How to secure the pipeline? There are multiple ways to secure pipelines. If you're just talking about securing pipelines or source code, can you confirm? Can we test the HPA here? Yes, we can test. I have tested it, but here again I have to set up few more things. We have to like manually sorry, like the way to test HPA is that what I have tried basically is like we can set up a separate container separate container inside the pod, and like send so much of request, then it will be working. And rollback application from latest data is not going to get lost, I guess. Can we put load on side? Yes, Deepak, actually I have done this. I have this testing part I have done actually. This HPA in my actually course I added 2 videos on VPA and HPA where I have shown demo like how exactly you can overload the application, and so that like it's going to increase the resource plus it's going to increase the number of pods. I did that demo. Okay guys, any specific questions you can put ping me in Telegram, then I'll be able to respond there as well. Thank you, Srinivas. Yes, there will be more session. I don't concept a similar deployment. Rollback in Terraform. Maybe a separate video I'll be making on that. Steps in video, Srinivas. Yes, I'll be sharing, but not right now. Later on, I'll be sharing. I'll be making. See, the thing is, ki again, it did not. This application did not work properly. So I'll make a separate video and I'll be uploading it. Then you'll be able to understand with a different project, because with today's session the problem was that the issue is with respect to the project source code. Okay, not with the deployment process that we followed. Deployment process was correct, but the issue was with respect to the source code, application source code. So yeah, I'm just checking things. Once everything is fixed, then I'll make a separate video for YouTube using different project. Okay. Yes. Okay, guys, and thank you thank you everyone for joining, and I hope session was useful. We'll be doing a little bit more sessions later on. Okay. Okay. Thank you everyone. And yeah, details. See, once source code is available, I'll just put it in Telegram. You can just get the links from there. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a nice day, everyone.